You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Earlier this week, the Supreme Court vacated an order from 3 U.S. federal judges that found the state's last process to change with gerrymandering. It said it benefited Republicans and violated the voters' constitutional rights. Well, now you got to remember, the Supreme Court previously ruled that they could not determine what was political gerrymandering. And so they basically threw this decision out. The ruling also ordered special state Senate elections in 2020 by that federal court. The question now is, what happens to vote for voters in Michigan? Lavora Barnes is chairman of the Michigan Democratic Party. She joins us right now. Ms. Barnes, clearly the Supreme Court is allowing political gerrymandering to go on, but we know from the North Carolina case where they have ruled in favor of or supporting racial gerrymandering, meaning that's not allowed. Is there a focus now that these decisions have been changed by the Supreme Court where folks are going to sue on behalf of racial gerrymandering and not political gerrymandering?
I think folks should sue because if you look at the way this court has made this decision, they've basically abdicated their responsibility as the highest court in the land to make a decision here, which I think is a ridiculous mistake and that they should weigh in. But here in Michigan, we're going to redraw our lines in 2022 with a citizen panel anyway, because our voters decided that they didn't trust politicians to draw these lines anymore and changed that law by referendum in 2018. So we will fix this problem ourselves, but we shouldn't have to.
Well, and speaking of that, when the voters actually voted on that referendum, Republicans in the legislature still tried to change it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they did. This is what they do, right? They try to get in here, undo the will of the people over and over again. This is what they do with gerrymandering. This is what they do with anything that we as the citizens decide we believe is the right thing to do and they don't like, anything that threatens their power hold, anything that threatens their hold on government and all of its issue, they will fight hard to take back from us, and that's what they've tried to do here in Michigan. You know, they've got their folks. You know, they've got their plan for how they think they're going to A, continue to control the government, and B, frankly, line their pockets and the pockets of their supporters with the government programs that they fund. Right? They pretend like they don't do corporate welfare, but they do. And the way they keep that power is to keep the people from speaking up and doing the work that they know that they think that they have chosen their elected officials to do.
You talked about that voter initiative. Obviously, that's 2022, but next year is a presidential election, and Republicans are desperate to hold on to Michigan, which Donald Trump won in 2016.
Yes, they are desperate. They are not going to hold on to Michigan. We've put together a terrific ground game. After 2016, we recognized that the way we win this thing is to work year-round, not show up in people's communities and in their churches in September of the election year, but to be there all the time. So the Democrats have been on the ground here in Michigan since 2017, and we haven't stopped working. And we're going to deliver Michigan for whoever the Democratic nominee is. But that doesn't mean the Republicans aren't going to do anything and everything they can to try to suppress our votes. You know, they'll show up in our communities and try to tell you've seen this stuff, where they try to tell us the election day is a different day, where they try to tell us you can't vote if you've got any outstanding warrants. They try to, all that stuff. We're prepared. We've got a team of folks on the ground who are prepared to combat all of that because we know they're coming for us.
All right, Lavora Barnes, we surely appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
All right, let's go to Mustafa first. Mustafa, to her point, Supreme Court advocating the responsibilities. Again, this was a case that came out of Wisconsin where Republicans use these algorithms to really just move different people around, and race was involved. That was a prominent Republican who died, Tom Hoffler, they were seeking him out, and it was all designed to guarantee them control of state legislatures. Now the key here though is, and this is the problem, of course, because it comes to statewide voting, that if you control the state Supreme Court, then it can change like what happened in North Carolina and Pennsylvania. But if you use political gerrymandering, guess what? You'll never be able to overturn those decisions. That's why the Supreme Court's decision was so foul.
Without a doubt. I mean, and it plays into, as you know, folks were just saying, you know, it's about power, it's about resources, and it's about, you know, our vote evidently is super important because they keep trying to manipulate it. They keep trying to do everything they can to stop people from doing it. And it also plays into the lower courts as well. You know, who's going to be sitting and getting these positions there and continuing this cycle over and over and over again for decades. So, you know, I'm always curious why the Supreme Court sometimes kicks things back and doesn't live up to the responsibility of that, you know, that respective position. And, you know, when they do these types of things, they continue to have a role, a culpability role, if you will, in, you know, these actions that continue to play out across the country that are stopping folks from actually being able to utilize their vote in a fair and equal manner. So, you know, hopefully other states will be able to do some of the similar things that Michigan is doing by really getting engaged early in the process. But the reality of the situation is that all states are not going to do that. So there's still going to be these disproportionate impacts that are happening.
Lauren, I think what is key here are these ballot initiatives, and progressives are finally waking the hell up and doing what Republicans did in California and Michigan and Washington State when it came to affirmative action, taking it to the will of the voters. And we've seen ballot initiatives in Utah. We've seen it in the Dakotas. We've seen it now in Michigan. We saw with Amendment 4 in Florida, because this is how you're able to counter this political gerrymandering.
Yep, that's going to be the only way you're going to counter it with John Roberts sitting there. This is the Roberts Court that somehow decided that the Voting Rights Act was unconstitutional. Here they are with this. I mean, it is going to get back to local power. Whether it's state or even more local than that. You know, what I think about is that, you know, at the end of the day, obviously it's about power and control. It's always about power and control. But the Roberts Court is, this is really a situation that we keep talking about again and again. Mm-hmm. And really, I think, what I think about is that the numbers for these Republicans at some point, they're just going to get overtaken. Yeah. You know, they realize that, which is why they play these numbers games. But at some point, the numbers overtake you, particularly in places like Texas and California, but other states as well. And we're going to get there. At some point, we are going to get there.
Cleo, what we're dealing with here, again, we're dealing with folks. This is all about power. And this is, I know people out there watching keep saying, why do you keep harping on these federal judges? This is what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Republicans understand that the Supreme Court is a potent weapon. Yep. They know that the Supreme Court is the final arbiter of all laws. And so for Republicans, they don't want just a 5-4 majority. They want 6-3. They want to re-elect Donald Trump, hoping that Ruth Bader Ginsburg gets sick or dies or retires, and I'm being real clear, they do, because they want 6-3. They want to appoint a 38-year-old judge or a 40-year-old judge to guarantee they're going to have that seat for the next 40 years. And that's why, and I don't care what any of these people say, that's why I still think it was stupid and asinine for Barack Obama, President Obama, to appoint Merrick Garland. I said then, I still believe it. He should have appointed a black woman. He should have set up this antagonist and protagonist fight of these old white men denying this historic appointment of a black woman. I believe it would have had an impact on the 2016 election, even with the horrible campaign Hillary Clinton ran, even with James Comey and that damn letter, even with the shenanigans of Trump and the Russians. But Democrats play nice. Let's play fair. Republicans don't give a damn about that. It's about power. And we better understand that the Supreme Court and the entire federal judiciary will be on the ballot come next November.
Well, you know, I'm getting very psychological around these kind of issues. And my concern is that the masses, the alleged progressive people, black people, a lot of us don't realize how serious this is and don't realize the power in our hands. You know, the local power we have to affect elections. We're very laid back in the midst of the devil doing all kinds of crazy stuff to keep power. And the Supreme Court is clearly biased in the case that you mentioned to start this story. But I just want to see how it rolls out because what's his name, the president? What's his name? Donald Trump.
45.
Donald Trump has been Donald Trump all this time before he became president. So my point is that I think that there's I'm talking about black people now. I'm talking about black people in Congress and black people who can make decisions. I was talking about this earlier in the green room. There's a white accommodationist tendency that we have where we are fearful of challenging white power. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about black folks now and people in a position to actually challenge these things. We think of the whole idea of stepping up and demanding justice and demanding things be right in terms of justice. And as long as we're like that, not only people like who are in Congress, but everyday black folks who won't vote, feeling some, in my opinion, unconscious fear of challenging white supremacy and fear of backlash. We got to talk about that issue, Roland, because I really believe, based on interviews that I've had with people, that we are fearful of white backlash, so we back off and they wind up doing this kind of bullying that they did earlier today on the Hill, and we back off. Hey, man, look. It's worked.
Look, we better understand this court issue is real, and when you're talking about discrimination lawsuits, when you're talking about age, when you talk about age discrimination, when you talk about sex, when you talk about race, when you talk about environmental justice issues, when you talk about environmental racism, we talk about everything that goes through the court system. Yo, you file a federal lawsuit, you're going to be dealing with, like right now, Trump has appointed more than 150 judges. Yeah. That's real. And a lot of people have no business being on the federal bench because they want folks who are far right. And I'm just telling everybody right now, okay? You understand what the Republicans want, okay? This is not this, oh my goodness, you want us to vote Democrat. No, I want your ass to vote for your issues. I want you to vote and understand that who makes rulings on issues like criminal justice, federal courts, who makes rulings when it comes to voter suppression, voter disenfranchisement, federal courts, who makes decisions when it comes to all these different laws out here dealing with the environment, dealing with climate, federal courts. Republicans know this. And they want black folks and they want other people to be sleepy and not pay attention. Trust me, right is absolutely focused on the federal courts because they are still angry with Brown versus Board of Education 1 and 2. They're angry that those federal judges were the ones who actually made desegregation possible. They're angry at the courts, Thurgood Marshall, NAACP, Legal Defense and Education Fund, use the power of the federal courts to bring down Jim Crow and change America. And that's why they created British Fashion. And that's why the Mellons funded all these different groups. That's why the Federalist Society was created. All of these right-wing groups were created because they could not stand the fact that the courts affirmed the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act, and that's why they want to control the courts for the next half of a century. We better pay attention. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Luxe Jazz Experience taking place in Cabo, November 7th through the 11th. Of course, if you want to attend, go to lifeluxejazz.com, LIFELUXEJAZZ.com. But if you cannot be in Cabo for those 4 days, 14 different amazing artists, then, of course, you could live stream it. Get your live stream pass at gfntv.com. That's gfntv.com. As I said, amazing artists, Gerald Albright, Alice Bouillon, Kirk Whalum, Donna McClurkin, Shalia, Roy Ayers. Man, it's going to be an unbelievable 3-day extravaganza. And so look forward to you participating. And again, get your live streaming pass to cover those 3 days, all 14 concerts. You'll be able to watch right here on your phone, on your iPad, computer. Does not matter. Go to gfntv.com. That's gfntv.com to get your live stream pass. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.